Hello and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and life and simplify them. And friends, I don't know about you, but the things are starting to open up again. Life is starting to kind of feel a little bit normal. And I almost feel like I have to knock on some wood right now, now that I've said that with my outside voice. But the truth is that you might be considering over these summer months and in the fall ahead, a switch, a reimagining your career path altogether, whether you are thinking about shuttering your small business or kickstarting it in new ways, bigger and better than ever before, or maybe even shift to a different job in corporate America. That's what I want to simplify today. And my special guest is Misha Rubin. He's an entrepreneur and a career educator. And until recently, he was a partner at Ernst & Young, where he spent 15 years managing $100 million worth of projects, advising a countless number of clients and guiding hundreds through their careers. Now, his corporate experience and personal quest for meaning and fulfillment really helped him birth this thing called the Career Leap Method, a pragmatic, elevating, and actionable process designed for people to obtain clarity about their next career moves. So, I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Misha Rubin. Hey, Misha.
Hi, Mary. It's so great to be with you.
I'm so pleased that you're here as well. And, this is kind of a fun topic to dive into. I think anybody out there listening to me goes, yeah, Mary, change is not fun for anybody. But actually, I think you can take a playful, fun approach to this, right?
Well, I think if there is fun in life, it's change.
Yeah.
And if we want to live great lives, if we want to realize our potential, if we want to give the world the best we can offer, change is the way to go.
Yeah. It's moving just a little bit outside of your comfort zone to make transformation and to see what's possible. I think that's it. Is you only sort of realize what you think the world and what your career looks like in this very small container, because that's what you've been used to, aka your comfort zone, for so long. It's like stepping a little bit beyond it, or even taking a giant leap, right, to see what's possible.
So I call this phenomenon, that comfort zone that you're talking about, I call it career mediocrity. And I remember this special moment in my life when I was, so I'm sitting in a conference room in a business meeting, and it was pre-COVID. So it was a real conference room with walls and whiteboards and colored pencil and real people in the room. And at that time, I was working at EY for about 15 years. I was partner for 5 of them.
Yeah.
I made more money than an immigrant from Ukraine could have ever imagined coming to the United States. I had recognition and responsibilities. And I was what I call a competent, unfulfilled profesed somebody who is educated enough, good at what they do enough, successful enough, and not fulfill their job. So I'm sitting at that meeting, and we talk about the next service offering we will bring to our clients, which are large international banks. And everybody's talking, and I hear my work voice going, rah, 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 saying something serious and important. And then I hear my quiet voice telling me, Misha, you're not going to do this anymore. You're done. This is not aligned with who you are anymore. And that was a moment of truth for me. And it was a very scary moment.
Yeah.
Because I'm a breadwinner. I have 3 small children. I didn't have a clear idea of what I would be doing next. I didn't know that in 6 months from that moment, I'd come up with the Career Leap Method, that I'll start teaching, that I'll be here in the podcast with you. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
But that was a moment of truth where I confronted my career mediocrity. And what it means for a lot of people that listening right now is that you might not know what it is you want to do. You might have other humans depending on you and your paycheck. You might have some other personal circumstances. And you're not going to settle for mediocrity.
Yeah.
And you're willing given all these circumstances, to look and explore what there could be, that thing you should be doing in life.
And I can imagine a lot of people are listening to you and I right now and have had that happen at some point in their career, if not right this second, where they're like, yeah, I really do want to make a leap, but that is too scary. And how do I do it? And, we're paycheck to paycheck, or, small mouths to feed. And it's like, I don't know. And so you just sit and you don't do anything for a week, a month, a year, 10 years, and nothing happens. You wake up one day and you're like, where did my life go, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what happens. And I want to say that we are living in unprecedented times in terms of opportunity.
Yeah.
So first thing, there's never been an easier time to start your own business. When I came up with a Career Leap idea, I literally spent an hour building my website. Then I made some postings on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I got my first 3 free clients. I don't know what it took 30 years ago to start a business. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that it's easy to have one, but it's easy to start.
Well, so let me break that down in specifics, because I think a lot of people are going, well, yeah, that sounds really simple, but really, is it that simple? So had you already taken the leap from Ernst & Young before doing this, or were you launching this new business while you were still getting paychecks from E&Y?
Yeah, so that I actually took a few leaps before I arrived to the Career Leap.
Yeah.
So after I left EY, I started a few brands, educational brands, that one led me to another. So it wasn't like a leap. It was like series of leap that had me arrived. And frankly, it was unimaginable. It wasn't something that I thought I would be teaching, or I thought I had anything to teach anybody. That wasn't in my preview.
So, and I think that's it. What is scary about the leap in particular is not knowing, well, where are you going to land? Like, how will I pay that next, monthly mortgage or whatever it might be? Having a bit of a runway for those funds so that you're not making decisions from a scarcity kind of place, right?
Yeah. So can I tell you the other 3 reasons why we live in unprecedented time? Because
yes, please.
I can lead you into this particular conversation. Yeah. Because I would like people to get present to what's really possible, specifically when we live right now. So I talked about that it's actually easy to start a business. I'm not saying it's easy to run it. It's pain in the neck. It's frustrating a lot of times, but it's easy to start.
Sure.
And easier than ever before.
Yes.
The number 2, employers are open to remote work as never before. Can I tell you, in the past, we were constrained by geographical locations. Right now, not as much. So that creates opportunities that didn't exist before.
Yes.
Number 3, our society goes through major transformation. And when there is a major transformation, there are clearly a lot of pain and losses. But the new industries showing up, new business ideas showing up, old industries transforming, that all creates opportunities, right? And I would say rare time that we're living in. And number 4 is access to learning. Unprecedented. Like right now, you pretty much can learn anything sitting at home. Take a course in Ivy League college. Yeah. You can get a degree online. You can go just pick up knowledge on YouTube, or there's tons of free resources. So these 4 things create truly unprecedented times. And I want everybody just to get it. It is unprecedented. Yeah. So then the 3 questions are, where do I look for this career or business idea that's aligned with who I am? How do I recognize it? And the third one, how come I'm not running after it right this second? Yeah. So these are the 3 questions that I'm pausing here.
So let's recap on that. The 3 questions that you really need to ask yourself when it comes to finding the opportunities that are already within your grasp, right near, not talking about big leaps and trying to, go from one thing to another in a massive way, but just the things that are low-hanging fruit so close by. Is question 1 is where to look for them. question 2, how to recognize them, and 3, how come you aren't pursuing them? So let's deep dive into that. Why are those the 3 questions you should be asking yourself?
Okay, so again, if you have an intention, if you are confronting your career mediocrity and you're in this place, I don't want to put up with this anymore, and I live at the time of unprecedented opportunities, then the question, where would I look for them? How do I find them? Then it's the next step is where I'm going for it. So, and that's where the 3 questions that the Career Leap method is fundamentally answering through the process that I take my students through.
So let me ask you this. Maybe we should back up a little and kind of define what do you consider meaningful, fulfilling work, especially in this day and age? Or is that really just individual to each of your students?
That's a great question. It's actually very individual to what's so. It's very interesting. I talked to somebody who is a teacher, right, and who wants to switch a career. And for her, the job is meaningful, but not fulfilling anymore. Because she's just done with that profession. So there is a distinction. It's not just the same thing. So meaningful that actually has meaning for you, and fulfilling that actually you experience satisfaction. And what I found, and that's the premise of the Career Leap method, is where you work should be aligned with your career values. And what you do should be aligned with your strengths. And where you work is way more important than what you do. And your career values is actually your compass for meaning and fulfillment. And if you are not experiencing them, you don't experience the sense of meaning and fulfillment, most likely you are not aligned with an organization you're working for, with leaders, with an industry, or maybe the type of business you're in. So your career values fundamentally is the answer to your question, what brings you meaning and fulfillment.
Yeah, I know that we have a lot of listeners out there in the world who, run small businesses or work inside the live events industry. And in the 2020 pandemic, their entire industry overnight went disappeared. And I know quite a few colleagues and clients as well who took that as a sign to say, right, okay, I am really good at project management. I'm really good at risk management. I'm really good at design and seeing the big picture as an event planner. How do I take those skills and move into a completely different industry? Because this one is gone. And, right now it's 2021. Things are starting to open up again and it's starting to come back again. What would you say to that person who's, really examining, like, do I leave my industry that I've been in for 10 years now and start something completely new using my strengths?
Right. So I usually say I'm no oracle, so I don't have answers for people. I'm a guide. I have like a big flashlight and I will shine it into the dark corners and you will see things. But I'll give you an example. Somebody who I'm working with. It's this wonderful woman who, was working in corporate America, left it because she was raising kids and started her photography business. And she was very successful, and then pandemic happened and her kids are older. So she is like, I actually want to go back to work. Now I can do that. So she and I did a lot of study on her, what I call unique career criteria. So this is your career values, your strengths. What is your motivation mechanism? What is your interaction profile? So all these things about you that creates a criteria to look for industries, organizations, and leaders that would be aligned with your values. And for instance, she, through her personal experience as stay-at-home mom, she developed a lot of idea about personal finance and about how people that don't earn money actually make a big impact on financial of the family. And she developed, and she's in the process of developing her own app. Anyway, so she picked that industry, personal finance, as something that's of interest to her, that aligns with her value.
Yep.
And currently we're working on how to get a job in that industry. But we went through the process to arrive there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because I think I can only speak for myself. Sometimes I just want to get straight to the end, fast as possible. And
with you.
I have to be intentional about slowing down and doing the journaling and doing the work of like really like step off the hamster wheel and go, okay, what is most important to me? And you've said it a couple of times, like your core values, and making sure that's aligned with, if you do go back to corporate America, like with what they have. But then equally, if you're a small business owner and you're listening to us right now and you're like, well, I don't really want to go back to corporate America, this is also a great time to reevaluate your core values as a business owner and as a brand too, right? Because there might be things that need to shake up to shake off the dust too, right?
Yeah, and I would say that corporate America is a very like broad. There's a lot of smaller companies that don't really operate like corporate America, that are more in a startup entrepreneurial mode.
Yes.
That's especially if you do have, and that's one of the things when I was working with that woman, what we wanted to highlight is her entrepreneurial experience, because she jumped and made career changes several times. And I think there are a lot of organizations that would say, okay, you might not have all the exact skills and experiences that we need, but the spirit of what you've done is very much aligned with our organization, right? So I think there are a lot of options. That's why I think I'm like you. I wish I could just, plug this thing into people's heads so they arrive to the answer.
Yeah.
But that journey, you explore what are industries, what are careers you could take. Maybe you can apply exactly the same principles to business ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need very similar, the 4 pillars of the career leap apply to entrepreneurs in exactly the same way as a person who is exploring corporate careers. But a lot of my students actually look into entrepreneurial paths.
And just as we were saying at the very, very top of the conversation, everything revolves around your mindset, right? So if you create a safe space for you to step off the hamster wheel and journal it out, process, ask those big questions, you do have to create safety in that, because there is a lot of vulnerability in asking those questions. And I can imagine, shame kind of knocking the door and going, oh, you should have done this 20 years ago. Like, why are you're too old now to figure it out? And fear knocking on the door going, ugh, how are you going to possibly pay your bills if you leave your job right now? So how do you create that safe space container, do you think, for this process work?
So one of the pillars of the career leap is called dismantling disempowering beliefs. And this is exactly what you said. I am too old, or I will never make amount of money, or I'm not skilled enough, or they don't like hiring women there, or I'm just a not lucky person to do this thing. So one of the things that I teach my students is how belief systems are created in our head, right? So when we have a belief, so for instance, a belief, I'm not lucky. So we don't create beliefs randomly. We have evidence for them. So we have all the evidence. I'm not lucky here, and this thing happened, and this thing happened. And if you look at what I call anti-belief, which would be I'm lucky, I bet you will find a lot of evidence of how lucky you are.
Yeah.
So then it's like intellectual exercise a little bit. But if you then look at that all the evidence that you're unlucky and all the evidence that you're lucky, you might be able to see that you're actually both, like everybody else. And those beliefs that unconsciously formed in our head, we can completely dismantle them and create new empowering context for ourselves. And that's one of the things that I teach. Actually, I would like my students to become master in that. And sometimes they say something, it's like, well, I think I cannot do it because it's like, well, I know this was a disempowering belief. They already say it, they already catch it, and they already know how to dismantle it.
Yes, and I am so fascinated by all of this because I think that we don't give our subconscious brain enough credit because it does dictate so much of our decisions and the things that we go after and the things we don't go after. And it's so unconscious. It's like 90% of our brain is feeding that story, whatever that limiting or disempowering belief is. It's feeding that story. And back to your point there, it's like, who do you listen to in your brain? Do you listen to that voice that says, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too whatever? Or do you listen to the antithesis of that to create change, right? And find the data points, like you say, for the more positive belief.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't trust voices in our heads, right? It's just the voice that says that you're too old. The truth is, like, for instance, there is somebody who is 70-year-old, a surgeon who signed up for my program. Why? Because he realized that he won't be able to do this work forever,
right?
Given it hands-on work. And he wants to do something useful in life.
Yeah.
So he's looking for his leap. So here is your evidence. There's tons of evidence of people doing things in all types of ages nowadays. So just trusting your head telling that I'm too old, it just don't.
Yeah.
And to me, it's really not what's in your head. Is really, what do you want your life to be about? My mission in life is take that a competent, unfulfilled professional and to turn that person into an empowered, impactful human.
Yeah.
And that person who knows who they are, they live their life in alignment with their values, including they work in alignment with their values. They empowered to initiate the change.
Yeah.
They make the type of a difference that they know they could and should be doing. And most importantly, they're creating an excellent example for our kids how to live purposeful life.
Yeah, it's a win-win-win, right? Because it's a win for that person to be living in their fullest, greatest light in the world. It's a win for their family, everyone and friends who are closest around them. And it's a win for the world, making a positive impact on the world rather than just sort of droning away in a crap office job and hating life and just numbing yourself when you're off work, right? Like that's the trap that a lot of us can fall into over and over and over again if we choose easy, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether it's easy because you pay the price one way or another.
Yeah.
So I think there is an illusion that that's easy because it actually very expensive on your well-being and your sanity, on the quality of your life, on impact that you have on your family, on your children. So I think there is definitely impact to that comfort. It's not a very comforting comfort, I would say.
Yeah, so it's the illusion or the myth of easy when in fact it is very, very difficult to be stuck and stagnant and all of the things. Yeah. Well, I want to go back to what you said earlier. So you mentioned that there are 4 pillars to the career leap method. So talk us through those and how does it all work?
Great. So the pillar number 1, it all starts with self-awareness.
Yeah.
So knowing what to do in life is a function of knowing who you are. So this is where you create your unique career criteria. Your career values, your strengths, your motivation mechanism, your interaction profile, you create all these things that you already are them. You just put them in language.
Yep.
And that becomes a criteria. And it's so much fun to explore with people when they create their leaps, when they look at industries, when they look at organizations, when they look at careers, now that they have a criteria, and they pick one and two that we explore, or business ideas. It all comes in that. So that's part of knowing yourself.
And can I pause you there? So knowing yourself, when you're doing that exploration work, is it knowing who you are and what your identity is now, or knowing who you want to be and the identity you want to leap into? Or is it a bit of both?
It's who you are now. You already are your career values. They already live inside of you.
Yeah.
They already torture you because they're not being fulfilled.
Yes.
You're already that. You don't need, it's a current phenomenon. So you fundamentally know who you are, and you know it in language, right? And you know where you're going.
Yeah.
So that's your pillar one. The pillar number two is what we talked about already, dismantling your disempowering beliefs. So everything that's in the way between who you are and where you're going, you want to be able to take it out. And I train the mastery of that.
Yeah.
So now you know who you are and where you're going. You know how to take out things. So the third pillar is impactful communication. It's about how do you communicate this all to the world. And I teach impactful communication that has three principles: authentic, relevant, and transparent. And we apply it to all forms of communications, whether it's your resume, whether it's your business proposal, whether you're looking for a mentor, whether you're reaching out to a company, whether you're going on an interview. And one thing that I get to do with my students is help them write their magic letters. And magic letter is a piece of writing where you articulate who you are, what is the problem you're trying to solve, and how it's relevant to this organization or a person that you're writing to. So I just had these two great stories to share, that one of my students wrote a magic letter to the CEO, and she's like, magic letters work. He invited me for lunch.
Wow.
So she worked on Wall Street, right? And then she identified an educational company where she wanted to work. She reached out, and here it is. So this is an example of how this works. And the other of my students during the program, so she created the leap. She decided to go to grad school for that. She applied to grad school when the application deadline was in April. But she wrote a magic letter, and she just wrote to me that she got accepted.
Brilliant.
So the magic letter, the idea here that we're trying to produce a nonlinear result. That's why I call it magic. That it's not your like regular boring cover letter that you die from reading. It's something that's authentic, inspiring. It should inspire you. It should inspire your reader.
I love this concept. I really, really do, because I think we put so much focus on, social media marketing has got to be the answer. And we got to get funnels, and we got to get paid ads, and we got to get da-da-da-da-da as a small business owner. But you know what? I think that there is some truth to what you just said. I have a client who did this recently, didn't know about the magic letter, but the same principle is the same, and reached out to somebody who would be absolutely their ultimate ideal client. And lo and behold, they did get invited to lunch, and now they're getting offered, some work from it. So it's making those bold asks out into the world, not just thinking about it, not going, that works for somebody else, not me. I'm not a magic person, but like just literally taking action. And
you are.
Yes, you are.
You are a magic person.
Yes. And I love that the concept of just the three points to it being authentic and relevant and transparent, and really it makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
So now you know who you are and where you're going. You know how to take out barriers of these beliefs.
Yeah.
You know how to communicate this to the world.
Yep.
The fourth pillar is intentional actions. So we do know how to take actions, and a lot of people are great in taking actions, but here I really teach people how to create mastery of intentionality.
Yeah.
And part of it, there is what I call a water hose principle and a momentum principle. So water hose principle is when you very intentional and very narrow things down. Because some people like, I will look here and I will look there and I will go there. No. Let's pick this industry. Let's pick this problem.
Yep.
Let's find organizations. Let's be very precise in who we're communicating and why we're communicating to them. And through that, there is certain learning happens. There is a focus happens, and that's amazing.
Yes.
And then on top of it, you use a momentum principle. It's like, what would it take to create a momentum of your action? So you need to take a certain amount of action. I use a dozen as an example in a short period of time for momentum to occur in this narrow water hose principle, right? And then if you do that, this is what my experience is. You might also produce unexpected outcomes. You might have opportunities that actually have nothing to do with the actions you take, but there's some magic happens there too. And that's one of the things that I teach people. So if you take all these 4 pillars, you know who you are and where you're going. You know how to dismantle disempowering beliefs. You know how to communicate in an impactful way. And you know how to take intentional actions. That's what creates an empowered, impactful human.
Yeah.
And you can apply all of this, not only looking for job or career or at your job, but anywhere in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking for a romantic partner, looking for new clients, looking for a new community to belong in, friendship circles and things like that, right? Like all of this applies there too, huh?
Absolutely. Everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so fascinated by all of this. And if you are too, I would highly recommend going and checking out Misha's website. So it's misharubin.com as well as thecareerleap.com. All of the links and everything we talked about in today's episode is at our show notes at thesimplifierspodcast.com. You have a thing called Career Crackathon. What's that?
Okay, so I designed this free mini program.
Yep.
So if you have a disempowering belief around your career, it's over a 3-day period of time. You'll receive an email and a text. It will help you dismantle a disempowering belief.
I love it. And this is it. I think when you start to find the tools to put in your tool belt, and that's what you are, Misha, you're a guide that has tools in your magic belt, and you share those with other people, you build confidence over time. Because I think when you're stuck, right? Like when you're in that disempowered belief, you just start to lose hope and you go, oh, I'm stuck here forever. It's never going to get better than this. You believe the little voice in your head. But I love this idea of just having the simple tools tested in your own life and your business and, make progress, build confidence, and grow from there.
So this is what I want to say.
Yes.
If you do feel stuck or even hopeless, or you're not producing results that you want in any area of your life, here we're talking about career. There is a good news for you.
Yes.
There is a disempowering belief sitting there and creating that experience. Part of what's happening in our belief system, that we have evidence for them and that it makes us feel in a particular way. Yeah. It usually has impact on us and others. But the good news, if you have a disempowering belief, you can dismantle it. So if you go to misharubin.com, that career crackathon, you can apply it not only to careers, though most of the examples are career related. I use it personally, and every time I do it, I have a breakthrough. So here it is. If something is not working like I just explained, there is a good news to that. It's dismantleable.
Everything's possible. I love it. So Misha, as we wrap up, I have a few questions I'd like to ask you that we've asked everybody that's on the podcast. And again, thank you so much for your time today. My first question is this. Tell us what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system.
So one book that I would recommend that became kind of my philosophical blueprint is The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. So this is a story of this guy who was like PhD student who wanted to quit and live in the woods. And somehow he became a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company because of a particular way he lived and listened to what's next. And I actually applying a lot of these principles in my life.
I love it. Yeah, we'll link up the book in the show notes over at thesimplifierspodcast.com if people want to check that out. Tell us who's one person in your network that you know personally that you just feel is up to brilliant things. We could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
Absolutely. So my friend, Kian, he lives in Barcelona, and he is a designer. And he designs these he takes the clothes that you already tired of and about to throw out.
Yeah.
And he paints on it and he makes it art and he brings out your superhero.
Oh, I love it.
It's so much fun. You know what? Now that I'm thinking, I should have put on his T-shirt for this show, but it's really wild. I didn't know whether everybody can handle it.
Yes.
Anyway, he's super fun. He does a lot of amazing things.
I love hearing people doing amazing things out in the world. We will link him in the show notes. So people, if you guys are curious to see his work, you can find it again over at thesimplifierspodcast.com. So Misha, I believe that gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, I'll cry. I live a blessed life. I'm in a magical moment of my life. I live in a beautiful place. I have a beautiful family. I have 3 kids that we finally settled because we moved so much.
Yeah.
My business and teaching is about to take off. I am grateful for everything.
That's so beautiful. Thank you again so much for your time today. Again, if people are curious to find you, his website is misharubin.com, and also on Facebook at The Career Leap. And we'll also link you up in LinkedIn if people want to connect there via our show notes. So my final question for you today is this, Misha, and again, thank you so much. Someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and she's thinking about a massive leap in her career, whether it is shutting down a business and going back into a corporate world, or maybe becoming a freelancer and just having a handful of clients rather than working 80 hours a week. What's one thing you could just whisper into her ear right now to encourage her in this moment?
So one thing that I teach my students is how to connect to your intuition and how to listen to yourself. So there is a concept of ordinary mental consciousness. This is our mind that goes with all the beliefs and I'm too old or I'm this. Yeah. But if you get to quiet it, like really let go that thing that talks all the time, and if you get to your own quiet space, there is an answer for you, whether it's the right thing for you now or not. And sometimes what I found for myself, that it takes time to get to that answer. Sometimes I wait for it. Like I pause that question and I see that I don't have an answer, so I wait for it.
Yeah.
But there is an answer there.
Yeah. So create space, ask the questions, listen, and then do the thing.
Yeah, and if there is an answer, I'm sorry, there's no way out. Like if you hear the answer that yes, then it's really hard not to follow it. There are consequences to that.
Yeah, you got this. You got this. Misha, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much.